Out of the 71 championship teams since the birth of the NBA in 1947, 52 of those teams were 1 seeds, 10 were 2 seeds, 7 were 3 seeds, 1 won it as a 4 seed, and then there was a team that managed to win it all despite never having home court advantage throughout the playoffs as the 6th seed. This is the story of the 1995 Houston Rockets, the most improbable championship run in NBA history. What's up guys, welcome to Mdj. My name is Mark. Let's jump back to 1994. Behind one of the greatest individual seasons of all time, where we saw Hakeem Olajuwon win both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season, the Houston Rockets won the championship for the first time in franchise history. But the following year, things changed. During the first half of the season, the Houston Rockets struggled, having a 29-17 record, including a stretch when they went 5-9. They were still a good playoff team, but nowhere near championship status. After suffering a humiliating loss at the hands of the Clippers, who were the worst team in the NBA at that time, the Rockets realized that they needed a change. So mid-season, they traded away Otis Thorpe, who was arguably their second best player, in exchange for Clyde Drexler, who was Hakeem Olajuwon's former college teammate. At the time, many people criticized this move. For one, this was still back in the day when trading a big man for a perimeter player was not favorable, especially seeing as Clyde Drexler was already 31 years old. 2, people thought it was ridiculous for the Rockets to trade away a core piece of last year's title team. And 3, people thought that the Rockets did not have enough time to fit in a scorer like Clyde Drexler, seeing as more than half of the regular season had already passed. And the funny thing is, the critics were right. The Rockets ended up going 18-18 for the rest of the season, posting a worse record with Clyde Drexler than they did without him. Thus, the Rockets finished the season 47-35, which notched them the 6th seed in the West. With Hakeem, Robert Horry, Vernon Maxwell, and many others on the team having dealt with injuries throughout the season, nobody took the Rockets seriously, especially seeing as the West that year was filled with great teams. You had Karl Malone and John Stockton, who were edging towards contention. You had David Robinson, who won MVP that year and led the Spurs to 62 wins. You had Charles Barkley in Phoenix. You had Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp in Seattle. And even the Lakers, who had a better record than the Rockets, led by Vlade Divac and Nick Van Exel. In the first round, the Rockets were matched up with the Utah Jazz, who won 60 games that season. Despite the Jazz being favorites, the team split the first 4 games, and so the series headed back to Utah for a decisive Game 5, because remember, back in the day, the first round was only a best-of-5 series. With 5 minutes left in Game 5, the Jazz were up 82-75, but guess who came back to save the day? None other than Clyde Drexler. He had 31 points and 10 rebounds for the game, made 5 3-pointers, and also sank the free throws to give them the lead after going coast to coast and drawing a foul. And after this series where they beat the 3rd seed Utah Jazz, there was hope. Like Hakeem said, then we beat Utah and I believed. Karl Malone, John Stockton, and Coach Jerry Sloan and that whole team. They won 60 that season. They were for real. They were a championship level team, so when we beat them, I thought, well, anything is possible. But the road ahead for Houston was anything but easy. In the second round, they faced the Phoenix Suns, a rematch of last year's conference semifinals when they beat the Suns in 7. And right out the gate, the Suns were playing for revenge. After winning Game 4 in Houston, they took a 3-1 lead against the Rockets. From the outside, the Rockets looked done. But one game at a time, they crawled back from this deficit. Kenny the Jet Smith, 21 plus 7 plus 7 in Game 5. Win. Hakeem Olajuwon, 30 plus 10 plus 8 plus 5 in Game 6. Win. They headed back to Phoenix for Game 7, and the game was back and forth. It all came down to one possession with the Rockets down 2. Out of the double team, the Rockets get it to the corner to Mario Elie, a midseason pickup for them who sinks the game-winning 3. And the Rockets once again defied the odds to beat the Suns 105-104 and advance to the conference finals. And their next matchup would be even tougher, where they went against the 62-win San Antonio Spurs with the MVP David Robinson. Because of David Robinson's MVP season, many had begun to talk about how he had surpassed Hakeem Olajuwon as the best center in the league, and all this chatter went into the ears of Hakeem, who now had personal pride attached to the series. And as teammate Tracy Murray says, they should have never given David Robinson that award before the series started. Because as the series went on, it became crystal clear that David Robinson was no match for Hakeem Olajuwon. To put it quite frankly, Olajuwon could do whatever he wanted to do with him. Time after time, Hakeem went right at David Robinson, and although the Spurs had some success double teaming him and triple teaming him, eventually that wasn't enough to stop Hakeem either. The Rockets would go on to win the series in 6 games, with Hakeem averaging an unfathomable 35.3 points, 12.5 rebounds, 5 assists, 4.2 blocks on 56% shooting, including a 39.17 rebound performance in Game 6 that still to date ranks as one of the best closeout performances of all time. And so the 6 seed Rockets miraculously made it to the finals. And despite all the signs pointing to the Rockets gaining back their championship form, the odds were again stacked against them because they faced the Orlando Magic, who boasted the #1 offense in the league, led by Shaq and Penny. And this young Orlando team was perhaps the biggest narrative of the season. As Robert Horry said, all season long people were talking about Shaq and Penny, Shaq and Penny, Shaq and Penny. You open up NBA TV, it's Shaq and Penny, the next great duo. The case for the Orlando Magic winning wasn't all that difficult. Penny is better than Clyde Drexler, Horace Grant is better than Robert Horry, Nick Anderson is better than Kenny Smith, Shaq, who in his third year averaged 29 points and 13 rebounds, was too big and too strong for the finesse player that was Hakeem Olajuwon. This was what the media was saying, and with Orlando jumping out to a 20-point lead in the second quarter of Game 1, the media was right. But slowly the Rockets began chipping away at that lead. Clyde Drexler started creating shots, and Kenny Smith started raining threes. With the Magic up 110-107, with Nick Anderson on the line, the Rockets needed some help to pull this one out. So Nick Anderson missed the first free throw, missed the second free throw, but got his own rebound and was fouled again. So again, he was put on the line. And again, he missed the first free throw, missed the second free throw, and this time, Houston had possession. Down 3, Kenny Smith pulls up and drains his 7th three-pointer of the game, which at the time was an NBA Finals record. The Rockets would then go on to win the game in overtime with a Hakeem Olajuwon tip-in. Game 2, the Rockets jumped out to a lead, but Penny and Shaq quickly led a comeback. And in response, it was not Hakeem, it was not Kenny, it was not Clyde, it was Sam Cassell, who scored 31 points off the bench and stopped the Orlando Magic runs before they could make them. Game 3 back in Houston. The game was again very close, but in the last moments, the young Orlando Magic clearly did not have the ability to close out games like the defending champs did, with Robert Horry, aka Big Shot Bob, hitting the game-clinching 3. With the Rockets up 3-0, there was no doubt that they would now win the series, and so they ended up sweeping the Orlando Magic in the finals. And it was at the post-game celebration when head coach Rudy Tomjanovich gave one of the best basketball quotes of all time.
Non-believers all along the way. I have one thing to say to those non-believers. Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
Forget that this was the most improbable championship run in history. You could make a legitimate case that this was the greatest championship run in history. Here's why. Because the Rockets were the 6th seed, they faced an elite team every single round. Round 1, John Stockton, Karl Malone. Round 2, Charles Barkley. Round 3, David Robinson. Round 4, Penny Hardaway and Shaq. They beat arguably the 4 best teams in the league one by one. Not many championship teams can say that they beat that many superstars and Hall of Famers in one year, and no one can say that they did it as the underdog in every single series. That's it for today's video. To my subscribers, thank you guys so much for the support. To the ones new to this channel, feel free to check out some other videos. If you like what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Other than that, my name is Mark, aka Mdj, and I'll see you next time. Peace.